Welcome to Chess News number 35. Today I want to take a look at a game that was played yesterday between Karjakin and Aronian. Okay, they played some standard opening moves. It was the Ruy Lopez, so I want to skip these moves rather quickly. Also because I want to stay within the 10-minute time frame that is demanded by YouTube for movies. Okay, this is a line where they exchange the queens, and now white wants to play knight c4, so black anticipates and already protects the pawn on e5. a5 is played, h6 now to try and play against the bishop on c1, but Karjakin solves that problem by wanting to develop his bishop on b2. Now king f8, very interesting idea. And according to sheepmove b3 is now a new move, but it looks very logical, doesn't it? Okay, king e7 was now played, and this may be a slight inaccuracy, because Karjakin now can start very nice complications. Bishop d5 is the first move he plays, attacking the knight and the rook in the corner. Now the normal defense would be to play bishop b7, preparing to retreat the king and then take the bishop on d5, so that then the knight from c6 can retreat to e7, where currently the black king is residing. However, after bishop d5, Aronian played knight takes d5, and I think that's also an inaccuracy, because after e takes d5, now the e file is opened up, and black's knight is forced to go into the corner here. It's an ugly square on a7. And of course, now with knight takes e5, white wins a pawn. Okay, king f8 was played because there was this threat of a Nazi discovered check with knight c6, of course. And now white continues developing. After bishop takes e5, he recaptures now with the rook, simultaneously protecting his extra pawn on d5. But now Aronian has a nice counter blow. He plays knight c6, attacking the rook on e5, and of course making use of the fact that the knight cannot be taken, because then rook d1 check would lead to mate. But Karjakin has a counter blow, and he plays here the amazing bishop g5, counter-attacking black's rook, and of course simultaneously opening up the defense from the rook on a1 to the square on d1, so that there is no longer any back rank mate threatened. This also means that the pawn on d5 is no longer pinned, and that now the knight on c6 is also threatened. Now if Aronian would play knight takes e5, he would lose after bishop takes c8, knight c4, bc4. This would lead to a winning position for white, so after bishop g5, he preferred h takes g5. But now of course d takes c6 is possible, and now the white pieces are in very strong and commanding positions. Also the pawn on g5 is threatened. Now Aronian plays f6, attacking the rook and protecting his pawn on g5. And well, there were several options here for Sergei. For instance, rook e1 would be very interesting, protecting the back rank and preparing rook d1 maybe just to take over the central files, or even rook a4 to try and go after this pawn on b4. But after f6 he played here rook c5. Probably he had already the coming sacrifice in mind. Now it would have been best here for Aronian to play rook d4, because then the knight sacrifice with b6 is less dangerous. C takes b, a takes b, and now the rook is no longer sitting on d8, so it's not vulnerable to an attack by the pawn on c7, and also the bishop on c8 is still protecting the b7 square. So for instance, after this series of moves, black would be fine, the position would be more or less equal. However, after rook c5, Aronian did not play rook d4, but he played here rook e6, bishop e6. And now knight b6 is much stronger. It is so strong that in fact at the moment it cannot be taken, because this would lead to a winning position. b7, rook a, b8, and now not of course c7, question mark, because then black would be winning, but rather after rook a, b8, rook takes a6, and this would be very advantageous for white, or should I say advantageous anyway. So knight b6 was played, attacking the rook in the corner, so black didn't take, but protected his rook, rook b8. And now knight d7, attacking both king and rook, so bishop takes d7 is forced. And all this for, yeah, quite a significant advantage in a double rook endgame. White can play against some of these weak pawns. However, after black's next move, which is rook b5, his position really becomes critical because it's really too slow. I also don't really understand the idea of this move, since after white's next move, black can't take on a5, which at the moment he is threatening to do because of the back rank weakness. So maybe there was already serious time trouble on the 27th move for Aronian. Anyway, a much better chance after rook c6 would have been to play more actively, e8 and rook e2, just playing on the second rank against f2 and c2, etc. Then, for instance, after rook e1, rook b5, which threatens rook f5 and g4, then this would lead to a position where white enjoys only just a small advantage. So, better would have been to play rook d2 here, but Aronian played rook b5, and now, like I said, his position is really becoming critical. White is now protecting his pawn also with his rook from the 6th, so after rook takes a5, rook 6 takes a5 would be possible, winning for white. Well, Aronian tries to make the best of it, rook d2, now rook a8 check is coming, king f7. Still there is a threat of rook f5, so g4, Karjakin defends against that. Now rook c5 and a6. White threats are more real, and he can defend against black's counterattack along the second rank. Rook c takes c2 now, and rook c8. Precise, very much precise, because after rook h8, for instance, already preparing to defend the pawn on h2, black could play rook a2. So back to the move, rook c8, and of course now not rook a2, because then this would be possible and white would be winning, but after rook c8 Aronian played here c6, and this is really also the decisive mistake. Necessary was rook takes f2, just to continue with his plan of sweeping down the second rank here. And then rook c7 would be possible, and after the next series of moves it really is not over yet here. Note that after rook c7 it would not be very wise to play king g6, because then after king f1 white would have a more easy plan to go. So rook c6 was really the decisive mistake, and after a7, rook takes f2 and rook h8, Sergei defended against the intrusion on h2, and Aronian resigned. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this very quick game analysis. You're not used to that? Okay, thanks for watching, and please, until next time. Bye bye.